Hare Krishna. It's April 30th, 2026, and we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, entitled Prahlad Pacifies the Lord with Prayers, Text 43. Today is the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadeva, and so we're reading something from the 7th canto, which is about the pastimes of Lord Nrsimhadeva and Prahlad Maharaj. This morning, before Japa, we read Srila Prabhupada's summary to the 8th chapter, entitled The Lord Slays the King of the Demons. And so, this is text 43, chapter 9, canto 7. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamodirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Okay. Naivod Vijay. Para. Duratyaya. Vaitaranyas. Tvad. Virya. Gayana. Mahamrita. Magnachitta. Shoche. Tato. Vimukha. Chetasa. Indriyarta. Maya Sukaya. Baram. Udvahato. Vimudhan. Naivod Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamita Magna Chitta. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamita Magna Chitta. Shoche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Shoche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Maya Sukaya Baram Udvahato Vimudhan. Maya Sukaya Baram Udvahato Vimudhan. Naivod Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Naivod Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamita Magna Chitta. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamita Magna Chitta. Shoche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Tato Vimukha Sa Maya Sukaya Baramudvahato Vimudhan. Maya Sukaya Baramudvahato Vimudhan. Naivod Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Naivod Vijay Paradaratnyaya Vaitaranyas. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamita Magna Chitta. Shoche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Soche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Maya Sukaya Baramudvahato Vimudhan. Maya Sukaya Baramudvahato Vimudhan. Naivod Vijay Paraduratyaya Vaitaranyas. Naivod Vijay Paraduratyaya Vaitaranyas. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. Tvadvirya Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta. Soche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Soche Tato Vimukha Sa Indriyarta. Maya Sukaya Baram Udvato Vimudhan. Maya Sukaya Baramudvahato Vimudhan. Would anyone online like to lead the chanting of the text? And hello, Aditya and Sylvan, Lakshmi Priya, Reina, and Ananta Shakti. Okay, we'll study the word meanings. Na.
Na.
Not.
Not.
Eva.
Eva.
Certainly.
Certainly.
Udvijay.
Udvijay.
I am disturbed or afraid.
I am disturbed or afraid.
Para.
Para.
O Supreme.
O Supreme.
Duratyaya.
Duratyaya.
Insurmountable or very difficult to cross.
Insurmountable or very difficult to cross.
Vaitaranya.
Vaitaranya.
Of the Vaitarani.
Of the Vaitarani.
The river of the material world.
The river of the material world.
Tvatvirya.
Tvatvirya.
Of your Lordship's glories and activities.
Of your Lordship's glories and activities.
Gayana.
Gayana.
From chanting or distributing.
From chanting or distributing.
Maha Amrita.
Maha Amrita.
In the great ocean of nectarian spiritual bliss.
In the great ocean of nectarian spiritual bliss.
Magna Chitta.
Magna Chitta.
Whose consciousness is absorbed.
Whose consciousness is absorbed.
Shoche.
Soche.
I am simply lamenting.
I am simply lamenting.
Tata.
Tata.
From that.
From that.
Vimukha Chetasa.
Vimukha Chetasa.
The fools and rascals who are bereft of Krishna consciousness.
The fools and rascals who are bereft of Krishna consciousness.
Indriya Artha.
Indriya Artha.
In sense gratification.
In sense gratification.
Maya Sukhaya.
Maya Sukhaya.
For temporary illusory happiness.
For temporary illusory happiness.
Sukha means happy and Maya means illusory. So illusory happiness. Bharam.
Bharam.
The false burden or responsibility.
The false burden or responsibility.
Of maintaining one's family, society, and nation.
Of maintaining one's family, society, and nation.
And elaborate arrangements for that purpose.
And elaborate arrangements for that purpose.
Udvahata.
Udvahata.
Who are lifting.
Who are lifting.
Who are making grand plans for this arrangement.
Who are making grand plans for this arrangement.
Vimudhan.
Vimudhan.
Although all of them are nothing but fools and rascals.
Although all of them are nothing but fools and rascals.
I am thinking of them also.
I am thinking of them also.
So, this text is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj. He's 5 years old. And this is after Nrsimhadeva appeared from the pillar and took care of Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, who was torturing Prahlad, trying to kill him and torture him in different ways. And so this is Prahlad. This is spoken by a 5-year-old Mahajan, great soul. This whole chapter is entitled Prahlad Pacifies the Lord with Prayers. Translation. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. So Prahlad is known for his compassion for the suffering conditioned souls. Srila Prabhupada's purport, he writes, throughout the entire world, everyone is making big plans to adjust the miseries of the material world, and this is true at present, in the past, and in the future. Nonetheless, although they make elaborate political, social, and cultural plans, they have all been described herein as vimudha, fools. The material world has been described in Bhagavad Gita as dukkhalayam ashashratam, temporary and miserable. But these fools are trying to turn the material world into sukhalayam, a place of happiness, not knowing how everything acts by the arrangement of material nature, which works in her own way. From Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. There is a plan for material nature, personally known as Durga, to punish the demons. Although the Asuras, the godless demons, struggle for existence, they are directly attacked by the goddess Durga, who is well equipped with 10 hands with different types of weapons to punish them. She is carried by her lion carrier, the modes of passion and ignorance. Everyone struggles very hard to fight through the modes of passion and ignorance and conquer material nature, but at the end, everyone is vanquished by nature's laws. There is a river known as Vaitarani between the material and spiritual worlds, and one must cross this river to reach the other side, or the spiritual world. This is an extremely difficult task, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 14, Devyesha Gunamaya Mamamaya Dhiratyaya. Quote, this divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. The same word, Dhiratyaya, meaning very difficult, is used here. Therefore, one cannot surpass the stringent laws of material nature except by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, although all materialists are baffled in their plans, they try again and again to become happy in this material world. Therefore, they have been described as vimudha, first-class fools. As for Prahlad Maharaj, he was not at all unhappy. For although he was in the material world, he was full of Krishna consciousness. Those who are Krishna conscious, trying to serve the Lord, are not unhappy, whereas one who has no assets in Krishna consciousness and is struggling for existence is not only foolish, but extremely unhappy also. Prahlad Maharaj was happy and unhappy simultaneously. He felt happiness and transcendental bliss because of his being Krishna conscious, yet he felt great unhappiness for the fools and rascals who make elaborate plans to be happy in this material world. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kedamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 43, spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to Sri Nrsimhadeva. Naivod Vijay Paradaratyaya Vaitaranyas Tradvirya Gayana Mahamritamagna Chitta Soche Tato Vimukha Chetasa Indriyata Maya Sukhaya Paramud Vahato Vimudhan. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. Today is the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadeva, described described extensively in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 7th canto. And, okay, so it could be, oh, well, that's incredulous, unbelievable, that God appears in a half-man, half-lion form. This is maybe children's stories, or okay. So there's many fantastic adventures in Bhagavatam, and kind of like when I thought about this 40 some years ago, I thought, well, it kind of makes sense. Like, if we accept that, like, a supreme entity who's omnipotent and omnipresent and omniscient, like all powerful. And then you say, well, okay, so what does that supreme entity do? And to me, it makes sense. It makes sense that the pastimes, when we use the word pastime, meaning everything is get to, for the Supreme Person and the pure devotees who are not material nature, to the extent that we're bound by material nature, means it's have to. And to the extent that we're free from material nature, then everything is pastime, just like in ordinary language, in ordinary talk. It's like, oh, I have to go to work. Oh, but on the weekend, I get to play golf, or I get to hike in the mountains. Okay, so like, that's my pastime. My pastime is to play tennis, or to go swimming in the springs. And then there's what I have to do. So for the enlightened soul, everything is pastime. Everything is sport. The sporting pastimes, we hear that term, Prabhupada uses it a lot. So it makes sense that the sporting pastimes of the Supreme Person would be far, 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 far more amazing and far out than any Hollywood movie or Bollywood movie. I mean, that makes sense. It would kind of be like, let's say, if the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead were like, well, not quite as far out and amazing as like a Spielberg movie, but like, pretty interesting. Okay. So Varaha incarnation, we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing in the form of a little pig who manifests from the nostril of the engineer of the universe and then gets bigger and bigger. Kind of, what? It's kind of like, well, the fact that it's so amazing and inconceivable for me, that actually increases my trust that, like, it would make sense that the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, whether in the form of a fish or a beautiful woman or a half-man, half-lion incarnation, or on and on and on. There's, in the Bhagavatam, you got about 25 to 30 incarnations particularly described, and it's described in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto. The expansions and incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are more numerous than the waves in the sea. We hear about some ones that are particularly well known in this universe, 25 or 30, one of them being Lord Nrsimhadeva. And it's described, Ete Japsakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam, that Krishna is not an incarnation, Krishna is the incarnate. He's, Krishna is the source of all the incarnations. That's also, so departure evahita santaram abhupechya dipayate vivrita hetu samana dharma. Yes, tajagavahi shavishnu taya vibhati govindamadi pusham tam maham bhajami. the Brahma Samhita describes, just like if you have a candle and a candle lights 100, 1,000 other candles, well, they're all equal in their illuminating power. Still, there is the original candle. So that example is given. So like all the incarnations, in some senses, this gets into some technical analysis, but in some senses, they're all equal to Krishna. Still, Krishna is the original candle. Okay. It's an analogy, so it's not like Lord Nrsimhadeva or Ramachandra. It's not like they were created at any point in time. They exist internally. They exist eternally. Still, we can use the candle analogy in terms of empowerment and qualities. So, Prahlad Maharaj, he's speaking with compassion here. When he's using terms like fools and rascals, he's speaking with compassion. And he's using this term Maya Sukhaya, the illusion of happiness. And Prahlad Maharaj, this is the compassion of a devotional heart, completely satisfied, fulfilled, and blissful, completely satisfied, fulfilled, and blissful, and at the same time, paradukkha dukhi, feeling the pain of others as their own. That's empathy, that's compassion. Text 32 of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that a true yogi is empathic with the happiness, the distress, the whole gamut of emotions of the suffering living entities by dint of their own experience, by dint of their own emotional experience. And so Prahlad Maharaj is just like, let's see, two verses ahead. This whole chapter is Prahlad Maharaj speaking practically. Towards the end of the chapter, we have Lord Nrsimhadeva responding to him. So Prahlad Maharaj also says in text 45, Yan maitunadi griyanedi sukami tucham kandu yanena karyur idukka dukam tripyanti nehe kripanappa hudukka bajo kun kandutivan manisijam vishahita dhira. Sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grihamedi, so-called grahastas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The Kripanas, the fools, who are just like the opposite of Brahmins, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are Dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. So in this chapter, Prahlad Maharaj, he dissects material enjoyment. He dissects it. And an actual Brahmin is one who's very liberal-minded and compassionate, not just miserly in keeping material possessions or even knowledge to himself. And so Prahlad Maharaj is saying, based on this, based on the illusion that we are this body, Ishvaroham, Aham Bhogi, Siroham Balavan Sukhi, then and I'll be happy by satisfying the senses of this body. Gross senses or subtle senses, like respect, adoration, distinction, popularity. And Prahlad Maharaj is saying this never works. Dukalayama Shashvatam. This world is intrinsically, when I say this world, sure, there is a geographical element. Here the Viraj River is described. It's a river between the spiritual realm and material realm. In terms of the chapter 15 Bhagavad Gita analogy, it's a river between the real banyan tree and the reflected banyan tree called the Vit. So there's a geography, and essentially it's a consciousness. Ihayasya harer dasya karmana manasagira nikilas vapyavastasu jivan muktasa uchyate. That this blissful spiritual consciousness in full bhakti, that this is fully available to be experienced while in this body. It's not like you need to die and go to heaven and then be happy. We can experience that in this body to the extent that following in the example of Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj, this 5-year-old boy who grows up to become the emperor of the planet and things like that, but he's one of the great Mahajans in the Bhagavatam and in our Vaishnav tradition, and he's known for his compassion. He's saying in this chapter, he says, like, yeah, I don't want to be liberated until everyone's liberated from material suffering, liberated from the illusion. We often quote the Greek philosopher Epictetus: the essence of all philosophy is to live one's life such that one's happiness depends as little as possible on external things. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying, like, he's from compassion. This is just an illusion causing more and more misery, that by satisfying the senses of the body, that one will be happy and fulfilled. And then it's described that Lord Shiva talks to his consort, Kali or Parvati. Narayana parasarve natu kaschana bibyati svarga pavarga narakesh vapi tulyarta darshina. He says he's appreciating the devotees, and that he said, like, they can be in hell or heaven, meaning the external environment, it can be hellish or heavenly, but they're just blissful to serve Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is describing about Prahlad Maharaj. That as for Prahlad Maharaj, he was not at all unhappy, for although he was in the material world, he was full of Krishna consciousness. So Prahlad Maharaj, he wants to give that. He wants to give this intrinsic happiness to everyone, to everyone. And that's, it's described by the Vaishnav poet. Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gunaino Manushya Janama Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janya Sunya Bisha Kainu. The Vaishnav poet sings that he says, I've wasted my life. I've wasted this precious human form of life by not serving Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So it's like I'm knowingly drinking poison. I'm knowingly drinking poison. Prahlad Maharaj says also in this chapter we're reading, Evam Janam Nipatitam Prabhavahi Kube. It says that, he says, it's like, he's talking about himself. He sees himself as very fallen. That's the humility of the pure devotee of Krishna. Seeing themselves as very, he says, like, I've fallen into a pit of snakes. I've fallen, material existence is like falling into a pit of snakes. We sing in the morning at Mangalarti, Samsara Dava Nalalita Loka Trinaya Karunya Ganaganatvam. Material existence is compared to like a forest fire, compared to like if we're trapped in a blazing forest fire. So these very graphic, heavy analogies to help us to get, like, this is futile. This is futile, and to wake up to real intelligence. So this is the beginning of human life. Till then, it's glorified animal life. To the extent that we're living for glorified forms of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then that's what animals do. Fine for animals to do that. For humans to live just for glorified forms of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, it's sad, it's a shame. And that's where Prahlad, that's where he's coming from. That's where he's coming from. Prabhupada often says the real problems are not eating, sleeping, mating, defending, how to eat better and mate better. And the real problems are birth, death, old age, disease. And so to wake up to the human opportunity, then that's waking up to, like, why am I suffering? Who am I? These get to be human questions. Who am I? What's the purpose of my life? what's the purpose of my life? What am I pretending not to know? And so Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he says that Jama Mrityu Jaravya Di Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, like this is the beginning of real wisdom, to like not be satisfied in an animal-like way, to be stuck in a body that's, as eternal spirit souls, it's actually embarrassing to be stuck in a body that's subject to birth, death, old age, disease. Jama Mrityu Jaravya Di Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. And that's it, yeah, just this morning I was reading some transcribed lectures from Srila Prabhupada. There was one in Boston, and he was saying that, like, yeah, there could be like a slaughterhouse, and the animals are going, get their heads chopped off, and it's just this terrible situation. But maybe there's an animal outside that has some grass, has a patch of grass. Like, oh, this is fine. Kind of, look, in like 10 minutes, you're going to go in the line. You're going to get it's not fine, right? No, but I got some grass here. Okay. So like, yeah, we're going towards old age, disease, death, and to wake up. Yeah. So Arjuna, Arjuna is a real historical personality there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he represents us, conditioned souls. And at some point in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 7, he says, Karpanya dosha patasvabhava prichami tvam dharma vimuda cheta prichami, yes, yatreyasyanis chita bruitame shishasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. He's speaking to Krishna. Okay, I get it. I'm confused. I'm lost. Now I am confused about my duty, and I've lost my composure due to weakness. In this condition, I ask you, tell me clearly what's best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Shishasteham sadimam tvam prapanam. So he's realizing, yeah, on my own, I'm just lost in material existence. Similarly, Srila Sanatan Goswami, great acharya in our parampara. Lord Chaitanya has like 5 chapters of Chaitanya Charitamrita instructing Sanatan Goswami, more actually. So Sanatan Goswami, great successful personality in the material world. And he comes to Lord Chaitanya with a straw beneath his teeth, which is the spirit of Trinada Pisuniche Natori Vasa Ishnuna Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. And he says, Kayami Keneyamaya Jari Tapatra. He says, People think I'm great. They think I'm really successful, a wonderful scholar. And he said, and I'm such a fool that I believe them. I'm believing my own publicity. But what I know is that I don't even know who I am, and I'm suffering. Please guide me. He's accepting a true spiritual authority. He's accepting just like in any subject, if we really want to progress, we accept a true authority, and that requires sincerity and intelligence to find or be found by a true spiritual authority. And so this series of verses, Prahlad Maharaj's compassion, and this is just yesterday with Ritik and Rasamrita at the Prasadam table after our staff training. We had our staff training here in my home. Later today, we'll be going to the Hyatt Hotel to set up the room for the foundational seminar. And tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., we begin Safato Foundational Seminar, organized by Parampara Prabhu here online. And and so we're endeavoring in whatever meager way, we're endeavoring to represent the compassion of Prahlad Maharaj and of Srila Prabhupada in all of our Sattva-tov endeavors. Compassion with knowledge. This was the theme of our class and discussion on Haribol. this was the theme of our class and discussion this past Sunday morning. Not just sentiment, oh, I feel so bad. Compassion with knowledge. And that's Prahlad Maharaj. Not just intellectual, the realized knowledge, how to relieve the conditioned soul, the foolish conditioned soul from its suffering, how to get at the very root of suffering. I'm reminded here, the whole Bhagavatam, all the Vedas are revealed by Srila Vyasadeva. So at one point in his bhakti meditation, Srila Vyasadeva, he realizes, Yaya samohito jiva atmakam trim gunatmakam paropi manute nartam tadkrit pam chabipadyate. He says he sees like all of the conditioned souls in the whole, all the time in material universe, especially in this Kali Yuga. They're suffering, the root cause of suffering, misidentifying the eternal spirit self with a temporary body. And he's feeling compassion for them. And he's revealing the Bhagavatam, including the statements of Prahlad Maharaj, feeling compassion. Anartha pasamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje lokasya janatad vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. As a result, he reveals the Srimad Bhagavatam, which gives real knowledge of the distinction between body and soul. That's the sambandha. And the activity, the process to liberate ourselves from material existence and the futility of material attempts at fulfillment. And that process is bhakti yoga madhokshaje, bhakti yoga manasi, samyak panihite male, apashyam pusham purnam, mayam chayad ahetukam. So through bhakti, and that's what Prahlad Maharaj, before this, in chapter 5, he was speaking to his father, Hiranyakashipu, and his father said, oh, okay, so like, what's your favorite subject? What'd you learn in school today? And Hiranyakashipu was, hoping that he'll get all of these, like, Machiavellian, mentalities to divide and conquer and increase my enjoyment. And Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Orchanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyamatma, Nivedanam, Iti Pushpar, Pita Vishnu, Bhaktischan, Navalakshana, Kriyata Bhagavat Yada, Tanmeye, Ditamutama. He says, well, the best thing I've learned is to hear and chant the glories of Krishna. Isn't that great, Dad? And his dad, had a thing, with Vishnu and Krishna and the Supreme Lord. It's like, well, no, it's not great. Throw him off his lap, and it leads to this incarnation of Nrsimhadeva. And so we're speaking at the Prasadam table about, there was some discussion about the identity of Srila Prabhupada and Goloka Vrindavan and different esoteric things. And I shared, I said, I'm really not interested in this. I'm really not interested. And I felt really somehow good. I'm really grateful that somehow I'm not interested in who is Prabhupada in the spiritual world. So that I talk about I'm more than completely satisfied to meditate on Srila Prabhupada as staying at the home of Sally and Gopal Agarwal in Butler, Pennsylvania when he first comes. Srila Prabhupada rising at 1 a.m. to give us his Bhaktivedanta purports. Srila Prabhupada writing thousands and thousands of letters to his students to guide them and instruct them and sometimes chastise them to help them on the path of self-realization and bhakti. So Gopi Bhava, or the spirit of the gopis, as we like to say. For me, Gopi Bhava is Srila Prabhupada at about the age of 70, embarking on the Jaladuta cargo ship. That's Gopi Bhava, having 2 heart attacks on the ride across the Atlantic. We shared yesterday, yeah, there was, Prabhupada was giving some talk, I think it was pretty early in the movement in the West, 1960s, and he mentioned demigods and things like that, and someone asked him, oh, uh, have you personally spoke to Indra, who's like a top demigod? And Prabhupada said, he said, how will that help you by knowing whether I personally speak to Indra? How will that practically help you? So that's just, there was one Prabhupada student at one point asked, what's the relationship between Balaram and Radharani? Ooh. Prabhupada responded, what business is that of yours? What business is that of yours? So Prabhupada getting on the Jaladuta, Prabhupada organizing Ratha Yatra in Calcutta at 5 years old. So this is, because when we talk about the residents of Vrindavan, their mood is to bring everyone to Krishna in loving devotional service. Their mood is to expand the rasa dance. And so that's what Prahlad Maharaj, that's his dedication. So so Prabhupada speaking about Prahlad Maharaj, and he embodies that spirit. Prabhupada was completely happy and blissful in Vrindavan, Uttar Pradesh, land of Krishna. Everyone greets everyone with Jai Radhe. So he's completely happy. When he says Prahlad Maharaj was happy and unhappy simultaneously, and Prabhupada was unhappy. He was very unhappy because so many people are suffering without this process of Krishna Bhakti. So many people are suffering in the illusion that they're this body. So out of compassion, representing the gopis and the cowherd boys and Prahlad Maharaj in the spirit, in the true compassionate spirit of Gopi Bhava, Prabhupada comes to the West, and that's why we're here in Europe and United States, around the world, discussing the half-man, half-lion incarnation of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And so, we don't want to imitate such souls. I mean, like Prahlad Maharaj went through such torture. We don't want to imitate such souls. At the same time, we get to aspire to follow in their footsteps. Mahajana Yena Gatasa Panta. Follow in the footsteps of the great souls, then gradually we acquire their qualities. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ya idam paramam gumyam mad bhaktes vavidashyati bhakti maya pram kritva mamivesyasi samshaya nacha tasmad manusheshu kashtin bhavitana chame tasmad anyad priyataro bhuvi kashtin me priyakritama. The Krishna says, one who's sharing Bhagavad Gita intelligently according to time and circumstance, says, there's no one more dear to me than the soul who's sharing this wisdom that relieves everyone of their suffering, because it gets at the root of suffering. So if we aspire to become dear to Krishna, we can cultivate self-realization and Krishna consciousness, and not to be a miser, to be a Brahmin. Cultivate and share, whether it's through philosophy, through prasadam, through the names of Krishna. Cultivate and share, and then we become very dear. And Srila Prabhupada is our ideal example. He had no reason for himself to come to the West, penniless at the age of 70, completely blissful in Vrindavan. So he's representing Srila Prabhupada. He's representing Prahlad Maharaj. Prabhupada ends his purport with Prahlad Maharaj felt happiness and transcendental bliss because of his being Krishna conscious. Yet he felt great unhappiness for the fools and rascals who make elaborate plans to be happy in this world. Prabhupada quotes this verse a lot. Maya Sukhaya Baram Udvahatovi Mudan. And it's not that Prahlad Maharaj or Prabhupada, they're not Luddites. Luddite means like someone who's against technology or something like that. No, okay, if you're going to do skyscrapers and sophisticated technology, okay, use it in bhakti, rather than using it to just alienate the self more and more and become more and more entangled in futile efforts to be satisfied through glorified forms of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. I'll read this verse again. It's Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 43. Nai vod vijay paradarat yaya vaitaranyas tvadvirya gaya namaham mitamagna chitta shoche tato vimukacheta sa indriyarta maya sukhaya baramudvahato vimudhan. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. Again, that's a realized devotional soul. It could be in heaven, hell, honor, dishonor, rich, poor, completely blissful in hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the Lord. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. So again, we'll be entering into a Safato seminar soon to endeavor to represent these teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Parampara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I'm walking and chanting, listening to class. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Well, I wanted to share, I don't think it wasn't the main point of your class, but, perhaps I think it's still appropriate on the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadeva, who is like
Yeah.
a invocation of transcendental auspicious anger,
Yeah.
that whenever you were describing about this sort of speculation or identification about Srila Prabhupada's, identity in the spiritual world, I felt angry. I felt it. I felt very angry
Yeah.
about that, and it's something, something I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
But to this sort of like topic or kind of conversation, but something just really struck me today about it, and if it seems that if somebody is having that sort of conversation with me or sharing that with me, I want to be like checking in with myself. Where's my sense of where they're coming from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it seems that the effect of that could be to like try to put Prabhupada into a box,
Mm-hmm.
or try to somehow compare and
Yeah.
contrast and disparage Srila Prabhupada's position or something like that.
Yeah.
And if my sense is like that, someone that is sharing that with me with that purpose or that intent, then I would want to be very careful about how I relate to them and the information I take from them.
Mm-hmm.
And because, like you said, it's something that's practically speaking, it's something it's a very esoteric, intimate sort of relationship between Krishna ultimately, which is really none of our business. And then it's not practically helpful. So it's like if someone, like, people could be coming from, devotees could be coming from different perspectives or different places, but I would
Yeah.
be wanting to check in with my sense of where this person is coming from in their consciousness to be sharing this with me. So that's what I wanted to share. Hare Krishna.
Thanks for sharing. I appreciate your sharing. And that is it's such a key point, maybe the key point. Yeah, where are they coming from? Is it some idle curiosity? Is there an impudent disrespect? Is there trying to put in a box? Yeah, where are we coming from? That's why I say, like, I feel thankful that somehow I like really personally have no interest to go there at all, and I feel fortunate that I have no interest to go there at all. And so so we can imagine. when someone asked, "Oh, what's the relationship between Balaram and Radharani?" Prabhupada could see, how's that going to help you? Where are you coming from? Is it's some idle curiosity, or yes, that you're thinking you're so intimate in these pastimes that you even have. Do you think it's like proper to ask, or is is it coming from? I'm sincerely wanting to advance and purify my heart. So thanks for that very key point. What's our sense of where someone's coming from? Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this time?
Yes, I do have a question.
Selvin.
You're saying that Srila Prabhupada was blissful in Vrindavan before he jumped on the Jaladuta.
Yeah.
What's your reference? How do you know, and what does blissful mean? Does it mean even when he was in the Jaladuta and having 2 heart attacks, he was blissful, just like Jesus was blissful on the cross? Or what kind of blissful are we talking about, and how do you know?
Okay. Yes. Well, thanks. Yeah, I think my view is the comparison to Jesus is a valid comparison. Just like Jesus, he's just in service to God, and so the soul, is blissful. Similarly, with Prabhupada having heart attacks, on the Jaladuta. So, how do I know? I hear from Srila Prabhupada. And so anyone, including yourself, if you want, you can hear Srila Prabhupada speak. Right? Read Prabhupada's poetry on the Vajraladutta. Observe yourself on it. Absorb yourself. So, hearing Prabhupada speak about his time in Vrindavan. Also, I know philosophically, that it could be a hellish situation or heavenly situation. It could be Vrindavan or Los Angeles or wherever. And a pure devotee is blissful in serving Krishna. So, philosophically, I know that that's true. And then specifically, yeah, we hear a lot from Prabhupada about his time in Vrindavan, and he suffered a lot. He suffered a lot. It was actually quite a struggle. He describes at some point he went to Delhi and he was distributing back to Godheads, and he got gored by a bull, and he was lying on the street bleeding. And I mean, there was lots of suffering, just like Prahlad Maharaj went through lots of suffering. So I hear from Prabhupada, and what Prabhupada shares naturally is completely consistent with the philosophy of the psychology and consciousness of pure devotees. Thank you, Sylvan.
Thank you, David.
Any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. The beginning of class, when you were talking about people, I guess I'm kind of forgetting now, like people trying to find happiness in the material world.
Yeah.
It reminded me of something I read in the Bhagavatam the other day that really hit me, which was, it said, our material desires are trash that come from material contamination.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really powerful. That really hit me. And then I was reflecting for myself all day. I'm thinking, I want this, I want to do this, I want to go here. Like, full of material desires all day. Some spiritual desires, but a lot of material desires. And I was just like, wow, that's all coming from this material contamination, and it's trash. It said the word trash, which it felt like a really powerful word too. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Gopi Vallabha. Yeah, it's very graphic, heavy language. Trash. A word used a lot is anarta. Anarta means that which is not natural for the self, that which is excess trash, excess baggage. And for the spirit soul, then any material desire is trash or covering on the diamond. And yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing that realization there. Thanks for sharing that realization. And here, like, yeah, Prabhupada's words there in the Bhagavatam and the language he used moved you. And yeah, so, and to the extent that we're carrying trash, to the extent we're not pure in our heart, consciousness, and habits, then there's no chance of actual childlike joy, spiritual joy, as long as we're retaining those attachments. In your sharing, Gopi Vallabha, I'm reminded of in one of Prabhupada's purports to the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he writes, yes, to the extent that we're addicted to material pleasures, we will be entrapped by material miseries. So it's just like a spiritual law. So to the extent that we're addicted to material desires and desiring to desire materially, then we're going to be entrapped, and then there's no freedom. Then everything is a have to, and trying to hope against hope and fulfill material desires. Thanks for your sharing, Gopi Vallabha.
Thank you too. Hare Krishna.
Any other comments or questions at this time?
I've got another question.
So
Early on, you talk about Krishna, so Krishna has, I think you used the word incarnated in different forms, and as Krishna, that was him as original. And okay, so I can imagine, so how I'm picturing the scene is that I can imagine that God can incarnate in different forms, and maybe choosing to forget some aspects of the spiritual realm in order to be having an experience or passing a message from that having forgotten parts. So I appreciate that. And then presumably there will be other forms that are still him in full capacity, like as Krishna. Okay, so
yes,
and if that's the case, like Chaitanya,
yeah,
apparently, so what I've gathered is that he's rejoined Krishna and Radha together. So basically that's him complete as a perfect devotee. So what's the difference between Krishna and Lord Chaitanya then?
thanks for your question. Yeah, Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktrupa Bhaktavritam Bhaktikyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. It describes different aspects of Krishna, of the Absolute. There's no difference, and there's a difference. It's a Chintya Beta Beta Tattva. So in a sense, there's no difference. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, and at the same time, there's a distinction. There's a different flavor. There's a different flavor. It could be said Lord Nrsimhadeva is Krishna, and at the same time, there's a distinction. So you've heard this term, and it's applied often. Simultaneously and inconceivably one and different. And so, and this gets subtle and complex, but that's the principle. There's Prabhav, Vikash forms, and there's Vilas forms of Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya is a whole category unto himself. So these are Krishna, and simultaneously different in flavor. So I'll just put so it's simultaneously one and different, and we realize how they're simultaneously one and different to the extent that we give ourselves to the process of bhakti. Because it's to the extent we give ourselves to the process of serving Sri Chaitanya and Krishna, then they reveal themselves to us, and about how they're one and different simultaneously. That's the principle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ontology and the epistemology. The ontology, well, they're distinct and one, and then the epistemology. How do we realize that? And that's called bhakti. That's the process of bhakti.
Okay, I've got a question following on that. I heard the difference. The difference is in the flavor, not so much in the quality. How often does Krishna come as Krishna?
Yes. Okay. It comes once in a day of Brahma. That comes about approximately once every 8,600,000 years.
And he came 5,000 years ago.
About 5,000 years ago.
So we're very lucky.
Yeah, it's a very fortunate time. And Lord Chaitanya also appears about once in a day of Brahma, about once every 8,600,000 years. And so he appeared just like 500 years ago. So it's a fortunate time. Yes.
Okay, are there other forms of Krishna being complete that come on a regular basis?
Yeah. Lord Nrsimhadeva comes on a regular basis. I believe also once in a day of Brahma. And again, so Lord Nrsimhadeva, Lord Ramachandra, Mohini Murti, Varahadev, Vamanadev, there are several. And they come on a regular basis. And they're complete, like Krishna, like we gave the candle analogy. And in some ways they're not as complete as Krishna. That gets into some technical analysis. They, if you want to win against it, they contain about 95% of the qualities of Krishna. It describes quite scientifically. And so, but still, to get the idea, they are complete. There's no material tinge in them. So, like each candle is as powerful as the first candle. But if we get more into it, in some ways, their sweetness is not quite as sweet as Krishna.
I guess 95%, the mathematical analogy doesn't work because 95% of infinite is infinite.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and all these 30
Incarnations, expansions.
forms, okay, they all come once in a day of Brahma, and they've all come within the last 5,000 years?
No, they have not all come in the last 5,000 years. For example, this incarnation of Nrsimhadeva, I'm going to estimate this is, and we could find it more exact. This is about 1 to 2 million years ago, what we read today.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
No, it's good. It's a science. It's quite, by science I mean it's an extensive body of knowledge about the. There's actually 7 categories of incarnations, and each category has its subcategories and its timing, and so it's a fascinating science. I'm inspired that you're inquiring about it. Hare Krishna. Aditya.
I had a question in regards to Prabhupada's pastime, you can call it, I guess. Like this question has stayed with me about like 4 to 5 years now. So the incident where the bull hits Prabhupada and
Yeah.
and then I remember like Prabhupada um like he's asking to himself like what is this, why is this happening to me, something like that,
Yeah.
paraphrasing the emotion maybe. So I was just wondering, like it felt like Prabhupada was feeling sad.
Mm.
So I was just wondering, like usually Prabhupada, or in this verse, Prahlad, they are feeling sad for other jivas. But in this case, Prabhupada was feeling sad because this certain incident happened to him. So I was just wondering how to look at it, and then this has stayed with me for a long time. So just wanted to ask this.
Well, thank you, Aditya. My understanding there is that at that time, Prabhupada was, he was like, okay, here's this kind of like a calamity, a physical calamity. He's trying to distribute back to Godhead, and not, not much interest in his publications. And then he gets gored by a bull. So my understanding is, it's not from Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra, Vigeya Na Bujaya. The psychology of a Vaishnav is unfathomable. So I'm not saying I understand what was happening for Prabhupada, but still, based on what we hear from Prabhupada, my realizations, incomplete as they are like, yeah, Prabhupada, he's like, okay, Krishna, yeah, like what's happening here? Yeah, what's happening? And there's many junctures in Prabhupada's life where like that's the mood, like full trust in Krishna and wondering, okay, Krishna, please, am I not on the right path? Like, you know, things aren't like, there's not a lot of effectiveness and success. So like Krishna, so that's my understanding. Like, yeah, like Prabhupada's ready to be gored by a bull 100 times if that's a service to Krishna. There was a time in Prabhupada's life, he had like many opportunities to be like a business magnate, like super mega rich, and his goal was that, then with the riches he'll share Bhaktisiddhanta's movement. And Prabhupada quotes a verse, and a Bhagavatam verse, he uses it in relation to himself. Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tadinam shanai. That when Krishna sees a devotee is sincere, but still has some material attachments, Krishna will sometimes take everything away. Now, it's not for me or us to say, Prabhupada had some material attachments. And so but Prabhupada sees himself that way. So due to some like really quirky, fluky things, Prabhupada's attempts at business, they were like beginning, and then they would collapse in like really, really fluky ways. And so then at some point, so then Prabhupada, he was also like, well, what's happening here? Because his plan, when he got that instruction in 1922 from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when Prabhupada first like offered obeisances, and before saying hello, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, you should spread Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking world. Gave him his life mission before saying like, hi, how you doing? And so Prabhupada, really? And then Prabhupada's plan was, okay, I'll be like really wealthy, and then I'll have resources. And then like that kept not working as years and decades went on. And then Prabhupada, took sannyas, and then so Prabhupada is in the question, what's Krishna's plan? So that's the way I see it. Similarly, like, well, this, I got gored by a bull, almost died, and I'm just trying to distribute the Krishna conscious literature. What's your plan, Krishna? So that's my understanding.
So it's like a kind of like a pastime, that exchange between Krishna and Prabhupada. Although he's acting like he doesn't know, could we understand in that sense?
Well, yeah, it's a pastime between Prabhupada and Krishna.
Hmm.
And what Prabhupada's aware of or not aware of, what he's knowing whatever Krishna wants him to know. We can go, say, the Gokula pastimes, Mother Yashoda, she's like completely, but it's Yogamaya. It's not Mahamaya. It's Yogamaya. Mother Yashoda, she doesn't know that Krishna's the supreme person of God. She just, oh, here's my little boy, and he's annoyed, and he's eating dirt. He's going to get sick, and got to take care of him, And then at some point, when Mother Yashoda looks into the mouth of Krishna, and she sees all of the universes, all the planetary systems, all the incarnations. She even sees herself looking into Krishna's mouth, seeing herself looking into Krishna's mouth in an infinite regress. Then she begins to realize, oh, this is actually the supreme controller of all planetary systems. And Krishna, he's not liking that, because it's not as sweet as just, she's my mom and she's chastising me and like that. So he puts her into spiritual ignorance, we can say. So exactly to what extent Srila Prabhupada knew, and to what extent he was like in Yoga Maya, and that's not for me to say.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Aditya. Hare Krishna. Any other comments, sharing, questions? Rasamrita.
So from the conversation at the prasad table that you described today in class, I had this inspiration or realization, I guess. How do we show up versus like showing up and demanding something, right? So these questions of Prabhupada, well, like, tell me, how what's your credibility? How do you interact with Indra, and just show up and demand something like that, versus being consistent. Prabhupada's offering classes, come, listen, gain understanding from what's being given, versus trying to take and like grasping and demanding. So that mood, that question,
Yeah.
I'm applying to, okay, in order to build an intimate relationship, I think I understand showing up in service. And so then I'm asking myself about chanting. You've said that chanting is both the question, like a prayer.
It's a prayer and the answer to the prayer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my thought about showing up for my japa is, in what mood am I doing it? I know there are many times where I'm in my japa meditation and I wind up having an internal conversation, and I'm pretty sure, at least what it looks like to me, is I have something I'm worried about or something I really want to figure out, and I get that Krishna is like, okay, here. But I don't feel like I'm showing up in service when I'm doing that. It's more like, hey, come on, I need help. And so I'm in the question of how to show up more in service, and then what I imagine that looks like is just being quiet and listening. It's kind of like being in a room with someone and noticing they're looking for something, or noticing that they need a glass of water, or like, but I guess that's my question is, I understand chanting as a service that we do to gain grow our relationship with Krishna, and what does it look like to really be serving?
What's the question?
I guess it's how to approach japa in a way that's less demanding and more building the relationship with Krishna.
Thanks for that. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I mean, I appreciated, where you went with your sharing, because like they said, yeah, do you speak to India? What's the relationship between this one and that one? It's just like these intimate things, just like it's like, just like we think of someone in our life, just like, yeah, tell me your most intimate secrets in relation with this. Come on, tell me. And like, it's rude, it's disrespectful, it's arrogant, it's obnoxious. And then as we develop a loving, humble, trusting relationship based on service, then naturally we reveal to people in our life more and more intimately in a natural way. And so what to speak of the most intimate relationships on the on the platform of Rasamrita, the nectar of spiritual relationships. Yeah, I mean, I do that a lot. I'll have like a question, or I'll be like, yeah, how to respond. Yeah, what examples to use in the seminar that starts tomorrow. So I'll be chanting japa with like intentionality, and it works, and it works. It might not be the most trusting, approach to japa, whereas it's kind of just like I'm here to hear Krishna's name in a mood of how can I serve you, but like thousands of times where like how do I respond to that email, and I'll just like chant on it, and I'll sometimes not even within 2 hours, but within like 20 seconds, I get clarity I wouldn't get if I sat at my desk for hours and hours. But so the idea is to be fully absorbed in the sound vibration of the mantra. But if our mind's going to go here and there, if it goes to some place that's devotional service, that's pretty good. That's pretty good compared to other places, which I won't mention, where my mind goes. And so, if our mind has whatever, 8 tracks, 16 tracks, 100 tracks, on as many tracks as possible, let's put something connected with devotional service. That's pretty good. And it might not be that full immersion and absorption and full trusting that whatever gets revealed, but that's my comment on that.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Rasamrita.
I'd be surprised if Srila Prabhupada didn't use japa also as a tool for finding material answers in his endeavors. I mean, it has to come there. If he was chanting every time he had a spare moment, then the thinking needs to happen is going to be happening, or he's in continuous trance. But then that's not very useful for material endeavors, transcendental endeavors, whatever. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, through Prabhupada chanting japa, chanting the names of Radha Krishna, he got so much inspiration to guide his bhakti, his service, his management of his movement. Definitely yes. And as you indicated in your comment, yeah, and because he's doing it for Krishna, it becomes spiritual management and spiritual letter writing, like that.
I do have another question around probabilities.
Yeah.
And that is, the Vedas, has it all happened in India? Is it all from and of and in India? Or has any other incarnation of Krishna happened anywhere else but India? I mean, you know, planet Earth is India is big, and planet Earth is that little bit bigger.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, there's incarnations described on not just on other varshas on other places on Earth, but on other planets and planetary systems. So yeah, yeah, not just India. And just if we get into some history, yeah. So previously, like even today in India, especially with like Indian nationalism, you'll hear the term Bharat, because that Bharat is what India was called. India is kind of like a misnomer given by the Muslims and adopted by the British, because India was ruled by the Muslims and then the British and the Mughals and things like that. The whole, like if we're looking at all the Vedas, we'll never once find the term Hindu. That's also kind of like just an external thing. So India was called Bharat, and now in India they're calling it Bharat again. Bharat, yeah. So you know a Bharat, and yeah. So actually Bharatavarsha, the land of Bharat. If we go back 4,000 or 5,000 years and past that, the whole planet was called Bharatavarsha. The whole planet was Bharat. And so there are pastimes in Bharat. Oh, that's India, but it could be referring to what we now refer to as Europe or New Zealand. Okay, so the whole planet was called Bharat, and like that. Yeah, there's for example, there's a text in Bhagavatam, Kiratu Nandra Pulinda Bukasha Birushubhaya Vanakashadaya Yanecha Papa Yadapashrayashya Shujanti Tasmai Prabhavishnave Namaha. It talks about races that are all part of the ancient Bharat. It talks about the African race, talks about the Mongolian, talks about the Russians, talks about the Slavics, talks about the what we would call the Europeans and like that. So the Vedas talk about all these races, and the Vedas referred to Bharat, which at that time, in the time of the Bhagavatam, referred to really all 7 continents on the planet.
That makes it tricky.
Yeah.
For historical scientific research.
Yeah.
Because it makes it a bit like vague.
Well, yeah. Again, it just like we talked about this is it gets into the cosmography and the geography, and based on my studies, what's there in the Vedic cosmography and cosmology, whether this, because even when we talk about Earth, there are at least 4 different conceptions of what is Earth in the Bhagavatam, including the conception we have, and then there's a conception from the view of the demigods. There's multi-dimensional conceptions. It gets complex. So the Vedas include and transcend what is valid in modern historical studies. And I could say more about that, where from my point of view, even from a rational, empirical point of view, there's, especially if we go back more than 3,000 years, they don't know much in modern historical science. That's my point of view. And so the Vedas includes a lot. So yeah, there was an original Vedic culture going back more than 3,000 years. For example, we'll just close with one example. Maybe you've heard me give. Let's say in the area of linguistics. Okay, so if we look at modern science of linguistics, well, yeah. So they'll say like Sanskrit's the mother language and things like that. Sometimes they'll talk about before Sanskrit there was Indo-European language. And And from what I've seen, the evidence for the existence of Indo-European, it doesn't exist. Like, it just doesn't exist. But they need to hypothesize it because they don't want to give Sanskrit the credit for being the mother language. But anyhow, and Sanskrit's known, it's so organized and sophisticated and high and brilliantly structured, much more so than modern day English, French, German, or Spanish, much more so. That's just known. Okay, so if we look at linguistic theory from modern modern academics, basically you had cavemen grunting, and then boom, Sanskrit popped out. That's what you have. That's what you have. The most sophisticated language. That doesn't make any sense, but that's based on my study of modern linguistics. Whereas the Vedas have, like, yeah, it started with Sanskrit, then things are kind of expand, things descend and develop. So the Vedic description of history and origins, whether we look at anthropology, astronomy, history, linguistics, any field, and then it just, for me, it's more complete. It's more complete than what I got in my modern day university studies. And so the Vedas talk about in Kali Yuga there's devolution. There tends not to be evolution. Of course, to the extent we take shelter of, like, the Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya's movement, then there's evolution of consciousness. I mean, I'm simplifying, but so again, if we look at, say, linguistics, okay, so it's known, like, even the modern languages, they're so much less evolved than Sanskrit. Or even if we look at English, would we say, yes, the English in downtown Detroit or New York, it's so much more refined than Shakespeare's English. We probably wouldn't conclude that. No, things are devolving, which is what the Vedas describe about Kali Yuga in any field. So again, it's another fascinating topic. Vedic history of the planet, okay, Earth. So there's what we conceive of Earth, that's described in the Vedas, but then there's what's called Bharat Varsh, which is also described as Earth, which is one and different from just like the globe that we call Earth. Then there's Jambudvip. There's Jambudvip, which is Bharat Varsh is one of 9 islands of Jambudvip, which is one amongst 7 concentric islands on the Bhumandala planetary system. So when Bhagavatam talks about Earth, it might be talking about Bhumandala, Jambudvip, Bharat Varsh, or the modern astronomical conception of the pebble called Earth. So it's a fascinating study. I appreciate the discussion. Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you, Uddhava. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Nrsimhadev ki jai, Sri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.